I never believed a dog could alter the course of my life. To me, they were simply pets, loyal to those who required that kind of affection, but never something I envisioned for myself. Life, however, has its own plans. When my husband presented me with a German shepherd named Jack, I saw him as merely a sentry, a living security system for the long nights I spent alone. My husband's work in international business meant he was often away, his trips stretching for weeks. I had grown accustomed to the solitude, though the quiet still felt heavy. "He'll be a companion so you're not so lonely," my husband explained, handing me the leash. I smiled and accepted, but inwardly I felt nothing. I had made my peace with being alone. I was not someone who sought solace in an animal. Rowan is my foundation, my steady ground. His spirit fills these rooms with light and sound. Without him here, the air feels thinner, the colors less vivid. The bed is too spacious. The darkness lasts too long. Our daily video calls are a poor substitute for his physical presence. His voice alone cannot soothe the hollow feeling inside. Initially, Jack was just a quiet shadow in the corner, trailing me from room to room without asking for anything. I performed my duties, feeding him, walking him, offering distracted head pats. He was a chore, not a friend. Jack never complained. He was endlessly patient, watching me with those calm, perceptive eyes. Then one evening it all shifted. One night, after the house is quiet and the world has settled, I find myself in my bedroom. It's there I seek small comforts, my hands moving over my own arms, pretending they are his. I close my eyes and let my fingers trace lines on my skin, a fleeting fantasy that he is here, his arms wrapped around me. I was beneath the covers, touching myself. It isn't desire that moves me. It's a profound emptiness, a deep need for connection, for the certainty that comes from being wholly loved. But tonight, my isolation is broken. Just as I'm slipping into the fantasy, I hear the soft sound of paws on the floor. Jack, our golden retriever, pushes the door open with his muzzle and enters. He cocks his head, his dark eyes holding a look of gentle inquiry. I offer a faint smile and pat the space on the bed beside me. "Come here, boy," I whisper. He jumps up immediately, settling next to me and resting his head on my leg. His warmth penetrates my nightgown, and as I stroke his thick fur, a surprising tranquility descends. I rub his stomach and shift closer. I wasn't prepared for its size. My hand closes around it, and he lets out a low growl. "You always know, don't you?" I murmur, scratching behind his ears. Jack releases a contented sigh, his tail thumping softly on the sheets. In this moment, his steadfast presence is a salve for my loneliness. He is not Rowan, but he comprehends. He sees me, and for now that is sufficient. Lying there with Jack beside me, I understand that love doesn't always arrive with grand declarations or passionate embraces. Sometimes it exists in the most ordinary moments. In the steady sound of a dog's breath, in the way he leans into your touch, in the quiet assurance that you are, in fact, not alone. Tomorrow I will rise and continue the routine, counting the days until Rowan is home. And these lonely nights will one day be just a memory. But for now, I will take solace where it is offered, even if it comes from a furry, four-legged friend who always knows what I require. It was another night. A storm had arrived, the kind that makes the house groan. I was struggling with the back door lock, but the key wouldn't budge. My frustration mounted. My heart raced as a cold fear took hold. What if someone gets in? My husband wasn't here. I was alone. I bit my lip, trying to calm my breathing, but the panic was already rising. Then, a warm nudge against my hand. Jack. His eyes, glowing softly in the low light, met mine. He wasn't merely standing there. He was communicating. I hesitated, then moved aside. To my astonishment, Jack went straight to a small kitchen drawer. He pawed at it twice, then looked back at me. Puzzled, I opened it. And there, under a clutter of old papers, was another set of keys. I gasped, having forgotten they existed. I hurried back to the door, inserted the spare key. It turned without resistance. Relief washed over me. But something else settled in my chest. Something new. I looked at Jack, who simply sat, ears alert, his tail tapping the floor as if to say, "I knew it." That night, for the first time, I sat on the floor with him. He laid his head in my lap, his warmth spreading through me, and for the first time in so long, I felt the weight of my solitude lessen. Jack was more than a guard dog. He was becoming essential. As weeks passed, I noticed things I'd once overlooked. The way Jack always positioned himself between me and the door when someone knocked. The way he sensed my anxiety, nudging my hand when I was worried, or lying quietly beside me when I was lost in thought. He was always there, exactly when needed, without a single word. One afternoon, I found myself talking to him while I cooked. It began with simple remarks. "You're always watching me, aren't you?" But then the words kept flowing. Before I knew it, I was telling him about my day, my thoughts, the things I never voiced to anyone else. He listened, never interrupting, never judging, just being present, and that was everything. I had always believed love was a grand performance, a spoken vow. But Jack taught me a different truth, that love could be silent. Love could be the act of staying close even when pushed away. Love could be the patience of waiting, of understanding, without a single word. I didn't know it then, but Jack would soon become more than a companion. He would become my defender, my deepest comfort. And one day, he would save me in ways I could never have foreseen. Time moved on, and Jack became a constant in my life. My husband's trips grew longer. His calls became less frequent. I understood his work was demanding, but that didn't ease the loneliness. In the quiet of our home, it was Jack who filled the void with his unwavering loyalty. One night, I was returning late from the market when I saw something odd, a black sedan parked across the street. Its engine running. At first, I dismissed it, but as I stepped onto my porch, I remembered seeing it the previous night. Too, a knot formed in my stomach. I rushed inside, locking the door. Jack, sensing my fear, pressed against my leg, his body rigid, his ears pitched forward as he faced the window, testing the air. I tried to ignore the dread taking root, tried to convince myself it was nothing. But the next morning, the car was there again. And the day after that. It wasn't until I heard a noise outside my window one night that I knew it was real. A soft rustling, the subtle crunch of gravel. Someone was there. My breath caught. My first thought was to grab my phone. But before I could move, Jack was already at the window. His stance was rigid, his growl deep and threatening. Then a loud bark erupted, a sound that shattered the silence like a gunshot. Whoever was outside froze. I heard the frantic scuffle of footsteps, the sound of someone fleeing. Jack barked again, more fiercely, his body a shield between me and the window. When I finally found the courage to look, the street was empty. The car was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Jack stayed beside me, his warm body pressed close, as if saying, "I'm here." The next morning, I called my husband, my voice trembling as I told him what occurred. He was worried, but distracted as usual. "Maybe it's nothing," he said, "but I'll try to come home soon." I doubted he would. That day I realized something. I couldn't keep waiting for a protector. I had to become my own. So I started being vigilant, truly vigilant. Jack and I established a ritual. Each evening, we walked the property line together. I reinforced the locks, installed security cameras, and every time we went out, Jack would walk a step ahead, his eyes scanning everything with sharp focus. Then one evening, the unexpected happened. As Jack and I returned from our walk, I noticed a man standing at the end of the street. He was tall and lean, wearing a dark jacket. His hands were in his pockets, his posture casual, but there was something unnerving in the way he stood, as if he were waiting. A familiar chill ran through me. Jack sensed my fear and let out a low, rumbling growl. The man turned his head slightly, as if he had heard, but didn't move. Instead, he stepped back from the streetlight, vanishing into the shadows. I quickened my pace, Jack glued to my side. That night, I checked every lock and window twice. Jack remained on high alert, pacing near the door, his ears catching every faint noise. I tried to tell myself it was paranoia, that my imagination was running wild. But in my gut, I knew the truth. A stranger was among us. The next day, I saw him again, but this time he wasn't hiding. He was standing in the daylight, talking with a group of neighbors. I watched from my porch as he shook hands with Mr. Halden next door, laughing at something he said. Then, as if feeling my stare, he turned. Our eyes locked. A slow, polite smile spread across his face. He raised a hand in greeting. I froze. "That's Ethan, Mrs. Breen," my elderly neighbor said as she passed. "He moved in recently. He's on the neighborhood security committee." Security committee. A cold dread tightened in my stomach. Jack stood at my feet, his body tense, his head low as he watched Ethan intently. I forced a smile and nodded, then retreated inside. Something was wrong. Ethan wasn't just a new neighbor. He wasn't just a friendly face. He was the man I had seen watching me. The same man who had been near my house. And no, he was pretending he belonged here. That night, I barely slept. Every creak, every whisper of wind set my nerves on edge. Jack was restless, too, pacing by the front door, his ears twitching at every sound. Then, just after midnight, a noise, a soft click, the unmistakable sound of the backyard gate opening. My heart hammered in my chest. Jack released a deep, warning growl. I reached for my phone with shaking hands, ready to call for help. But before I could dial, something slammed against the back door. A fist. A jolt of terror shot through me. Someone was trying to break in. Jack barked, a ferocious, deafening sound that ripped through the silence. A second later, the door burst open. Ethan stood there, breathing heavily, his eyes dark with malevolent purpose. "I knew you'd be alone," he murmured. "I've been watching for weeks. You never leave. Always here, so vulnerable." I stumbled backward, my pulse roaring. "Get out!" I screamed, but he just smiled. "Shh," he whispered, stepping closer. "No one is coming. No one will hear you." Then he lunged. Before he could reach me, Jack charged, a blur of fur and fury, teeth bared, snarling. He clamped onto Ethan's arm, pulling him back with terrifying force. Ethan yelled, struggling, but Jack held on. He fought with everything he had. His growls echoed, but then a flash of silver, a knife. "No!" I screamed. The blade plunged deep. Jack's body jolted. A pained whimper escaped him. His legs buckled. Ethan shoved him aside. He fell. I couldn't breathe. Jack. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands trembling as I pressed against the wound. Blood soaked my fingers. His golden eyes met mine. Soft, gentle, even in agony. He was telling me, "This was for you." Something in me broke. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy glass vase, and swung it with all my strength. The impact sent Ethan stumbling back, stunned. I didn't stop. I hit him again and again until he collapsed, until he was motionless, until I was gasping, my body shaking. Then silence. A terrible, hollow silence. I turned back to Jack, my heart shattering. "Stay with me, boy," I pleaded, stroking his fur. "Please stay." His breathing was shallow, his eyes fluttered. Jack lay still in my arms, his golden eyes now closed, his body limp. The warmth beneath my hands was fading. My breaths came in ragged gasps as I held him, whispering his name. "Please stay." Just a little longer, but there was no answer. A sharp ringing filled my ears. Maybe from my own screams, maybe from the approaching sirens growing louder. I barely noticed the red and blue lights flashing across my walls, the sound of heavy boots on the floor. "Ma'am, step away," a firm voice cut through the chaos. I didn't move. I couldn't. Everything was a blur. The officers rushing in, the commotion as they restrained the man on the floor. Ethan. I should have felt relief, but all I could see was Jack. A hand touched my shoulder, firm but kind. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" I blinked, looking up. A police officer knelt beside me, his face full of concern. Behind him, 2 others were hauling Ethan to his feet. His head hung, blood dripping from a gash on his temple where I had hit him. "A passerby saw what happened and called us," the officer said. "We came as fast as we could." I opened my mouth to speak, but no sound emerged. My throat was raw, my chest ached. Then a movement, just a flicker, a shudder beneath my hands. I gasped. Jack. For a fleeting second I hoped. I prayed that he was still fighting, that maybe he could be saved. But then the flicker ceased. His last breath left him, and I knew. A sound tore from my throat, raw, shattered as I held him tighter. I felt the officer's hands gently trying to pull me back, to lead me away, but I refused. No, he's still... I choked on my sobs. He's not gone. He can't be. But deep down, I knew Jack had fought for me. He had given everything. And now he was gone. I buried my face in his fur, my tears soaking into his coat. My protector, my companion, my friend. The officers' voices faded into background noise. I didn't care about the man they were taking away in handcuffs. I didn't care about the lights, the sirens, or the murmured words that I was safe now, because how could I be safe? How could I ever be safe again? When the one who had saved me was gone, the house felt unbearably empty. The silence, once a comfort, was now a weight. But Jack had given me more than protection. He had given me the strength to fight. He had given me the courage to survive. And though he was gone, his love, his pure, selfless love, would remain with me forever.